Welcome to DTCC2, place number 2. My name is Ben Ketzler. I guess most of you know me. I've been the one sending emails and asking for signatures, etc. So I'm the scientific coordinator of the center. So you'll get to know each other much more if we don't already. But I just want to actually just introduce Anders, our director, and he's gonna do some slides now about the center in general, so I don't need to talk about that. I just wanted to say hi and welcome everybody. Looking forward to the next 5 years.
Thanks, Ben. So welcome everyone to DTCC2 and welcome everyone also online. So we have a hybrid event today, about 30 people here, I think, and about 30 people online. So we're now in our second phase of DTCC, and it's been quite a bit of work this last year. First, we went through a big evaluation of DTCC1. Then we had a quite intensive application period for the new center. Many discussions with Vinnova, many forms to fill in, budgets and so on. But we are now, I think, safely on the other side, and we can get to work on DTCC2. So very happy to see you here today, so we can get started on the work of the next phase of our center. So as you know, we are an interdisciplinary research center devoted to digital twinning of cities. And we are now 35 partners in total from academia, industry, and the public sector. That's about the same size as last time for the first 5 years. The budget is about the same size as well, a little bit larger, but in all essence, the same. The 35 partners that we have now are not the same. It's like half-half, some are new, and many are old and remain in the center. We have funding from Vinnova for another 5-year period lasting until 2030. Some think that Chalmers, we are hosted by Chalmers, and we are hosted by the area of advanced ICT, and we are hosted by the Department of Architecture and Civil Engineering, but we have representation also from other departments of Chalmers, computer science and mathematics. We have this vision, DTCC vision from 2019. So this is what we started with when we wrote the original application. And we looked at this vision when we wrote the second application last year. And we looked at it and said, it's still valid. This is still the vision that holds for 2030, especially that, I mean, it says we want to do all of this by 2030. So we now really need to get to work. We have been working hard for 5 years, but now it's a 5-year period to actually realize this vision. And it's quite sort of ambitious to establish digital twins as the foundation for digital planning, design, construction, and management of sustainable, intelligent, and livable cities and regions throughout Sweden and Europe by 2030. So it's quite ambitious, and I think we have come a long way towards this, and we will be able to get to this through the projects that we will be presenting today, and also some coming projects that we will be launching in the coming 5 years. And to do this, we have a number of partners. We have industrial partners, public sector partners, and academic partners. 35 in total. I think we're missing one here. Kungsbacka came in late, but we have very good representation from Swedish industry, Swedish municipalities, and public sector, and a very good representation from Sweden and also from some European universities in this picture here. And this is part of our effort now in the second period to go from a quite national effort in the first 5 years to a more international effort in the coming 5 years. So that was maybe not a criticism, but a recommendation from the panel that evaluated us last year to do more international focus, and to do this, we will be more proactive in going for EU grant, for example. And then it's good to have this group of very good and partners from European universities with us. So it's easy to build consortia from the center, since we already have a large group of very good partners. Some achievements from the first 5 years that we're proud of is that we added 10 new partners to the center. in the first 5-year period. We've added 12 more now in the second already. So there's a large interest in this work that we're doing. We funded more than 40, maybe 50 or even new projects based on that researchers from the center were an integral part of. And that attracted additionally 100 million kronor. I mean, so that's some base funding for the center, but we should look at the center as a platform for going for new funding, specific funding where constellations from the center can be subgroups together with other groups that go for new grants to fund the work, because even though we have quite a substantial funding from Vinnova, it's not enough for doing the things that we need to do in order to realize this vision. We need more. We need to scale up. We have published more than 100 publications, many talks, many public events, and many educational activities in these first 5 years. And we plan to continue with this. So there was a recommendation from the panel to put a bit more focus here. So scientific impact, that was something that told us that we need to emphasize a bit more. So we will be doing that, but we still need to do this outreach, work with our partners, host events and public activities. So that will continue. So what about DTCC 2025 to 2030? So what is the focus? Well, the focus based on our self-evaluation and also from the recommendations from the panel is to increase the TRL. So we have to make more mature technical solutions. We have to put more end user focus. So we will do that in the coming 5 years, putting more focus into creating artifacts, technology that can be used in practice. Increased international focus, as we mentioned already. We have a maturing software platform that will help us doing this. And another important thing and big thing is that we will be recruiting PhD students based on the funding that we get from Vinnova. So the first 5 years, we didn't recruit many students. We didn't really use the funding to recruit new students. We used the funding to support research groups associated to the center, and they recruited students. And now we will be more directly using the funding towards new PhD students. So in our plan, we have 6 academic PhD students at Chalmers and 3 industrial PhD students. So that's the plan for the next 5 years. And we will also be having creating a research school or research forum for these students so that they can work together and have a belonging in DTCC. We have 12 new partners and we have 9 or more new projects that we'll be presenting today in a little while. And I'm happy to welcome all these new partners. So 12 new partners in the center. I hope I didn't miss anyone here. If I missed something here, you have to tell me and I will be a bit embarrassed. But we have Byggstyrning, we have Democratic University of Thrace, Doing Good, Gdansk University of Technology, Halmstad Kommun, Kungsbacka Kommun, Lantmäteriet, NTNU in Norway, to Infinity, and we have University of Patras, Twente, and University of Bergen. So we welcome all these new partners to the center. I think they will strengthen us significantly, and all these partners have already strong connections to the researchers in the center. Halmstad Kommun and Kungsbacka Kommun will strengthen our municipality representation in the center. We're very happy to have Lantmäteriet as a new partner in the center. They are essential for the data that we are using, so it will be good to work more closely with them in the coming years. A little bit about management. It's about the same as for the first 5-year period. I have Minna as my co-director in the center. We have Ban continuing as scientific coordinator, Vasilis continuing as head of development, Nadia continuing with communication. We have a new financial officer, Iris, who was with us for the past year in the center. So we have quite good stability when it comes to management of the center. We have good routines. So I'm confident that we'll be able to handle this for the coming 5 years as well. We have a new handler at Vinnova that we have been working with for the past year. So we have gotten to know each other, and I think that will be turning out good as well. The technical board is new. Many people remain. So the board consists of all the project leads for the projects that we will be presenting here today. So all these people here, or most of them, will be talking later and presenting their projects. We also have representations from people who are not at the moment leading a project, but have potential projects that we are planning for the coming 5 years. We have a new board of directors, which is half new, half old. So Bo continues. We have a new chair of the board. We're happy that Johanna, you're here today, right? Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
We have Tecumseh Neri continuing in the board. Mila, welcome to the board. Mila from University of Twente. Oscar Modin taking over from Henriette as the Chalmers representative. Welcome Peter from Skanska, Lina continuing from Ramboll, and welcoming also Cecilia Wind from Liljevall to the board of directors. So we will be having our first meeting with the board in a few weeks. So welcome to the new board of directors, which is an essential ingredient in the steering of the center. So we have regular meetings 2 or 3 times per year where we present the activities, and we have get good recommendations from the board on how to run the center. We also have an international advisory board that we will be using more for the coming 5 years, and we will be having a meeting with them as well shortly. So new projects. This is our new project portfolio, and this is something which is a bit different from the first 5 years. If you were part of the first 5 years, you might remember that we had these workshops with research areas. The research areas that we have, they remain sort of in the background, but we feel like we don't need these like broad workshops where we sort of discuss what should we do really. We now start with the projects from the start. These projects were part of the application process, so you have all seen them. We have all been invited to take part in these projects. And this is where the work will happen. We will be maybe launching more projects as well, but we have these 9 projects, and it's essential for the partners in the center to really engage in these projects, in 1 or more projects. It's also essential for the project leads in the center to engage with all partners and invite the partners. So all partners should be invited to a project here. They should find a role, and it's the responsibility of the project leads in the center to make sure that we can engage all our partners to the best possible extent in 1 or more of these projects. So you will be hearing about these projects in a little while after the coffee break, where our project leads will be presenting this. So there will actually be, I think, 6 presentations, because some of the leads here are running more than 1 project. So I will not say much more about the projects, but they are quite a broad representation of the activities that you need in order to study digital twins for cities. So the agenda for today, we have had coffee and sandwich, I hope, and welcome. Yeah, this was the welcoming address from me, so you know what we will be doing for the coming 5 years. The focus will be on these projects. The project will be presented after the coffee break, and then we'll have a common lunch for everyone. And now we will be looking at 2 partner presentations, one from DESI, from GATE. So GATE is one of our main partners in the center, the GATE Institute in Sofia, Bulgaria. They are a big research center with a similar focus as DTCC. So we're very happy to have them as one of our core partners in the center. And then we'll also be looking at a presentation from Helene Eriksson from Lantmäteriet, which I think will be very interesting, as they are now stepping up their efforts in digital twin. I think it's time to get started with the first partner presentation. So once again, welcome everyone to DTCC2. especially to all our new partners. And then we need to switch over, I think.
First, thank you for inviting me to join the kickoff of DTCC2. I'm very happy that DTCC Center moved to next phase. And as Anders mentioned, we have a great collaboration between GATE and Chalmers University of Technology and CIT. So my talk is dedicated to the local digital twins in connection to the data spaces. I would like to start first with the concept of the digital twin to have common understanding. So we start development of digital twins first by capturing the reality in order to create 3D city models of the city. But we need continuously to semantic enrich these 3D city models with additional information coming from different processes in the city and events. So we need also dynamic data coming from the traffic, demographic data, and data from sensors and actuators. And in order to be livable, we need this bidirectional connectivity between digital and physical asset. And this connectivity makes the digital twin tool for data-driven decision making. And here is a representation of how the digital twin works. First, it should be reactive to the near real-time changes in the city. And in this direction, we see different components that can be used to create digital twins. Of course, we need data which can be obtained through capturing, through monitoring, but also to have synthetic data in order to be fit in the digital twin. Different types of connectivity, either short range connectivity, wide area, or connectivity using edge and cloud protocols. Before analysis and simulations, of course, we need high quality data sets. And in order to achieve this, we need to perform different activities related to data integration, linking, semantic enrichment. And in relation to analysis of the urban environment, we perform descriptive and diagnostic analysis, also predictive modeling and forecasting, and prescriptive and optimization simulations. After analysis and simulations, of course, we need to visualize the results appropriately, either using dashboards, 3D city model, but also using virtual reality and augmented reality in order to engage the city stakeholders, including citizens. And the new knowledge that we obtain then guides decision-making in the city and can be used for problem solving. We define three main requirements for the development of the digital twins. First, the digital twin should be honest to have this potential to impact society and shape citizens' lives. And then the digital twin should act as a human to have ability to make life, the city better. And last but not least, the digital twin should be modular to have capabilities to handle different urban scenarios and to be scalable to more use cases and to another cities. We implemented several use cases on top of the digital twin technologies, starting with urban planning and design, then moving to spatial temporal analysis of the air quality. Another use case is dedicated to solar potential analysis of the buildings. Together with colleagues from Chalmers, we performed wind and air pollution simulations using computational fluid dynamics. We have scenarios related to mobility and walkability. I will talk about this later in the connection with the data spaces also. And last but not least, we have analysis of the impact of the urbanization of the urban environment, including analysis of urban heat islands. And what is important to us is after obtaining some results from the analysis and simulations to return the results back to the digital twin and to be visualized appropriately. And here you can see how the statistical estimation of energy consumption of the buildings is integrated in the 3D city model of the digital twin. Here you can see how the output from urban heat islands simulations are again integrated in the 3D city model. Actually, the simulation is performed using weather research and forecast model, and the output is heat map. But here we add additional attributes to the buildings in order to show how the temperature is spread over the city. And what you are seeing here is the center of the Sofia, where the temperature is 6 degrees higher there than the suburban areas. And the last example is visualization of the solar potential analysis of the building, again in the 3D city model. And this 3D city model is based on open standard called CityGML standard. And now we are working even on proposals, some extensions of this standard. So how the use cases are mapped to the digital twin functionalities. In the center is data functionality. So it is the basic component of the digital twin. But we have also reactive functionality based on the monitoring of the urban environment and then performing some analysis. And insights from this analysis will return again back in the digital twin. Then we have what if functionality, which can be used to simulate different future interventions of the city, and predictive functionality, which can be used to plan the city and then to check the current situation in the city according to the plans. So again, back to data, because data has only a value when it becomes information, and information has a value when it becomes a knowledge. And in this direction, I would like to move to the data spaces, because the data spaces is relatively a new concept in European community, in European Union. So a lot of efforts are put in the development of data spaces, but what actually is the data space? Being hub of International Data Space Association, GATE established the first urban digital twin, urban data space in Sofia, together with the urban digital twin. But the data spaces can be established in different sectors, not only in cities, but also in health, manufacturing, agriculture, etc. And the primary goal actually in the data spaces is to deliver high quality data from public and private sectors and citizens, and to stimulate data sharing for new business models. The data spaces actually are not centralized storages for data. The data space is an ecosystem of a variety of stakeholders willing to share data, and data sharing happens following different standards and interoperability mechanisms, which can be technical, semantical, or legal. Also, the data governance mechanisms are needed in the data space, including some rules for access and usage of the data. And here you can see the data space ecosystem principles defined by International Data Space Association. Of course, we need security principle because every participant in the data space should be authenticated before to join the data spaces, start offering some data sets. Then we need sovereignty of the data because each participant has full control over the shared data and also defines the rules for data access and sharing. When we create ecosystems, we need also trust between the parties. And last but not least, we create data spaces to get added value, to create new products and new services for cities and for citizens. So the unique selling proposition of the data spaces are not only economic, as I mentioned, we can create new products and services, but there is ecological impact of the data spaces because they enable resource optimization, reduced waste, and push sustainability. And last but not least, we have this social impact because the data spaces connect communities, improve services, and create opportunities even for the citizens. From the technical and non-technical perspective, data spaces has two main groups of building blocks. Technical and business and organizational. So for the technical business building blocks, we have data models defining different standards and data structures needed to model the data and to be shared in the data. We need data exchange mechanisms, preferably to be through APIs and traceability mechanisms for the data. Then we have sovereignty and trust building blocks related to identity management, establishing trust framework and access policies and usage of the data. And the last group of building blocks are related to the data value, where we need so-called data and service offerings. Again, I would like to mention that in the data space, we don't share actually data. We create so-called data offerings describing the data, metadata, and usage policies. And of course, we all can offer in the data space some services on top of the data. Regarding business and organizational building blocks, we have business building blocks related to establishment of business models and defining so-called data products. Also governance building blocks, which are maybe most challenging because the governance of the data space should follow different regulatory frameworks like Data Act, AI Act, Data Governance Act, etc. And last but not least, we have some legal aspects of the data spaces. So in the core of the data spaces is data space protocol, which define how data sets are offered in the data spaces and how they're defined in so-called data catalogs. Then the data space protocol defines how agreements that govern the data and usage are defined. And last but not least, how data sets are accessed using different transfer protocols. So the core component of the data space is data connector, which need to be deployed on both data provider and data consumer side in order to control access to the data space. At GATE, we start with deployment of data space testbed following IDS reference architecture model, and our first use case is related to the air quality. So here you can see on the left different data providers sharing air quality data, like Bulgarian Executive Environment Agency, Sofia Municipality, even GATE with City Living Lab. And on the right, GATE acts as data consumer. So we use the data to perform difference analysis of air pollution, and also the model developed can be also offered in the data space for usage for other participants. And of course, in this data space, we keep the sovereignty of the data. So each data provider defines the rules for access on the data. We have peer-to-peer communication between data providers and data consumers. So this is the real exchange of the data through APIs, file sharing, or other means of data transfer. In order to be functional, the data space need to provide interoperability mechanisms. And here you can see how the scenarios looks like. So first, we need to share data which is compliant with the standards currently with, for example, CityGML standard or Fireware smart data models. Then we perform S-analysis spatial prediction of air quality based on Gaussian regression model. And a lot of machine learning models are developed on top of time series data. And last but not least, we provided user interface for playing with the data based on large language model, which is integrated in the 3D city model of the city. So regarding the data space projects at the European level, we have two main projects related to the cities. One is related to the mobility and transport. This is a common European data space for mobility. And another related to the cities. This is the common European data space for smart communities. And here you can see the cities participated in the European mobility data space. So we are responsible for the implementation of local mobility data space for Sofia, where we want to stimulate data sharing of mobility data coming from green mobility operators like e-scooters, shared bikes, electric vehicle, etc., and to provide mobility as a service by integrating the public transport with this shared data about the green mobility, in order to stimulate citizens to avoid usage of private cars to move around the city. And here you can see how the use case looks like. So we have, again, different sources of data coming from the municipality, from Sofia Mobility Center and green mobility operators. Then data sets from these participants are shared as data products in the data space, and they can be used to develop so-called journey planning application, which will be available as a mobile application for the citizens. And our second data space project related to data space for positive energy districts. This is a pilot within European data space for smart communities. In this data space, we aim to share different data sets about the urban environment, also dynamic data about energy consumption and environment data, in order to implement several use cases which are also related to the implementation of digital twin of Sofia. And here in this use case, we rely on minimal interoperable mechanisms proposed by open and agile smart cities and communities. And here you can see the new version of this so-called memes. This is Meme Plus, where they define 5 horizontal minimal interoperable mechanisms related to access of the data representation, also linking of the data, securing the data and sharing. And then on top of these minimal interoperable mechanisms, they put additional one related to management of personal data. Separate memes is dedicated to geospatial data. Important thing is development of AI models of top of data, and what is expected to gain is spatial minimal interoperable mechanisms dedicated to the local digital twin. And in conclusion, our aim is to create urban digital twin that is powered by human-centric artificial intelligence. And this digital twin can adapt to continuously learn by itself, also can think in order to make strategic decisions and to talk based on chatbot with the citizens like a human. And this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Desi. Very interesting as always. We're not going to do questions now because we're a little bit running out of time. But since we're all partners, I think it's no problem. We can always contact each other. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to talk in detail about data spaces. And that's certainly an area for us at DTCC that we want to work more with when it comes to the internationalization and local digital twins.
And first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to give this presentation. So it's me, Helene Eriksson, and my colleague Thomas Littén that will tell you a little bit about Lantmäteriet now and in the future. But to know in which direction to go in the future, we also need to have some sort of a vision. And this is something that the Swedish Geodata Council has produced. They have created the Geodata Vision for 2040. And this vision is also part of, or Lantmäteriet is also basing its vision on this vision, I would like to say. So the vision is that geodata should provide new opportunities for Sweden, and that we in public Sweden should work together and build a common foundation for digitalization. And with geodata, that is data about reality, we will develop Sweden for security, democracy, growth, and sustainability. And to achieve this vision, they talk a lot about the information ecosystem in this vision. And this ecosystem should consist of both public and private sector data. And it will, of course, play a central role in the digitalization of the public administration. And this ecosystem should also be as open as possible, but as close as necessary. And they also talk a lot about that data has really become a strategic resource, both for development and digital innovation, for example, digital twins and AI applications and so on. And they have also made an example by doing a short animation of what they mean with all this. And here they are showing an application that is using what they call a digital platform, so that you can actually take part in reality. And this platform is then based on open geographical data from various sources, from municipalities, regions, authorities, and so on. And it also includes all the governmental decisions and restrictions. And again, it's have a security level depending on who you are. And in this animation, we follow a family that wants to build a house, and they have certain requirements. They want to be close to a school, a library, a grocery store. Their kids are playing football, so they want to be close to a football club. Parents like to go fishing and bird watching, so these are all important things for them. So using this application and the AI within it, the family then finds a plot that actually suits all these needs. And once they have decided on the plot, they also need to know where on the plot to put their house. And there again, they have some preferences. They want to have afternoon sun on their balcony. They want to have solar panels on the roofs and so on. So based on all this, AI then suggests where to put it. And to be a little bit more specific, then they can also use virtual reality to walk around on this plot and see if it looks like they want it to be. So when then everything is in place, then the AI then signals that the building permit is ready. But to be able to come to this vision and the future, we also need to know a bit more about the situation today at Lantmäteriet. And this Thomas will tell you about now.
Yes, so our responsibility is main to provide national coverage of basic geodata of Sweden, which is a quite large country, 460,000 square kilometers. And on the left, you see a Swedish map where we take where Sweden is divided in smaller areas where we take aerial images. So the green area every second year, the yellow area every fourth year, and the mountainous red area every 8th year. And from this, we make orthophotos and a digital surface model. And we also have LiDAR data, but that's 7 years between these takes. And from this one, we have a digital terrain model. We also have a topographic data from which we are collecting basic data, and then we put it together to a map that you can see on the left. And we also are responsible for the property data register in Sweden, where we have the property boundaries, administrative boundaries, addresses, and so on. And in this case, we do it in cooperation with the municipalities as well. So the data collection mainly from aerial photographs and laser data, and then we collect it on screen, sometimes using a little bit of AI. But we also have, especially in the municipalities, we have people going around measuring on the ground as well. And also our property data section are measuring the properties on the ground. An example of a cooperation is that we have about 290 municipalities, 10 million buildings in our register, and 5% of the Sweden's areas is updated by municipalities, comprising about 75% of the stock, and the rest 25% of the stock is updated by Lantmäteriet, but it's 95% of the area. And you can see the dark green area, this is the digital terrain model, is where most of the people live in Sweden. And this map to the right, you could see this red border areas, it's where the municipalities do. So you see in Stockholm, the municipalities cover the whole area, but once you get a little bit outside Stockholm, it's the urban areas that the municipality works within, and we do the rural areas around the urban areas. Our data collection is, as I said, in-house, but we also do quite a lot of data integration. We have cooperation with municipalities for the building addresses and the property data and so on. And we also have the Swedish Transport Administration for roads and railways, and we have the power lines and so on that provides us with data that which we integrate to our databases. From this one, we do maps, but we also provide the basic data. And today we have approximately 100 services, about 18 web map services, 52 download services, 22 direct access services, and 56 APIs. I won't go into detail what they are, but approximately 22 of these services are open data. It's mainly old maps, old image, but it's also small scale maps down to 50,000. If you should have more, then it's not. Then we have something that is called a free of charge, 55 services. And this should be open data. But it can't be due to legislation. Some products require a purpose assessment according to the Land Registry Act, and some data contain personal data and require approval of terms and conditions, and that you indicate how you will process personal data. So you see about 75% of the services is in a way open data, but you have to, in some kind, due to legislation, apply for using the data. Since February this year, we also have 18 high-value data, which is also in some case open data, in some case free of charge data, according to Euro directive. And it's provided via Stack API, and it's the main things that we actually do our maps from. So it's now also out for people to use. And then we have a national geodata platform where data is open, but you have to register to use the national geodata, and it's provides access to national standardized basic data via Stack API as well, and the exchange format is GeoJSON mainly. And these national specification and frameworks provide the basis for different actors to work in a similar way. And we're focused on the planning and building process. So the developed specification so far is ancient monuments and finds from the Swedish Heritage Board. We have building from the National Board of Housing, Building and Planning, which has also had the detailed development plan and the detailed development plan reports. And we have the limit for maintaining forest, which is the Swedish Forest Agency. But we should put our data here as well in the future, according to this. Then we have some examples of usage. We have the Swedish Transport Administration, which has this service where they show all the trains where they are actually now. If there's a green dot, they're on time. If there's a red dot, they are late. And if there's a yellow dot, they are a little bit yet. And this is moving all the time. And if you click on one of these, perhaps this red dot, you get, and all this is presented from a map, web map services from us. You could see if the train is on time, and you can see the history, how late was it, and you can see the prediction, when will it get to the next station. The reason that we started to do the digital terrain model with laser data is because of climate change adoption. In Sweden, we have problem with flooding, with landslide, and also erosion. And this is not following the administrative borders like for municipalities and so on. So this is a very important part for the Swedish Civil Continuous Agency to do this over all administrative borders. Then to do different things to cope with this. This is the municipalities or regional services. The flood analysis they have done for the whole of Sweden, and they use our map to present it, and they use the digital terrain model and laser data to predict. So this is what will happen in Sweden if we have a sea rise level of 5 meters. We also have a national copy height model, which the Swedish Foreign Agency are doing, and they're using data from us. They're using the laser data, the digital terrain model, and they also have a slider in this, so you can see how the tree grows and so on. And finally, we are going toward the future, and we are now testing to go for data collection for 3D, and we have tested to do with our own data. So this is using the laser data, the terrain model, what we have in our property data about buildings and so on. And we have plans now to how we should do it detailed, so we have a national coverage. And we will publish this 3D demonstrating during this year, and also test data for external users to get feedback. And we have also applied funding for basing national-wide geodata in 3D that enables digital twins from the government. So over to you, Ella.
Yes, thank you. So another way to find out future requirements for Lantmäteriet is actually to see what kind of requirements digital twin have, both on data provision and coordination. So to do this, we have a cross-functional digital twin working group at Lantmäteriet that has been working on those kind of questions for a couple of years now. And we started off with trying to build knowledge for ourselves about digital twins. And then we have tried to find out requirements on these twins in different ways, all to prepare Lantmäteriet for future needs. And we have also been thinking about what role Lantmäteriet should have in digital twins. And Lantmäteriet will, of course, manage our own data supply within our area of responsibility. That is the basic data as Thomas described it, images, laser, topography, property data, and so on. And also to have those kind of standardized national 2D overview maps, as you saw in this train map example. And in the longer term, we would like to have a similar map, but in 3D for overview. And this can, of course, then be used in different digital twins and other background in other applications as well. We will also coordinate the data supply of other public actors. And today, this is done using this national geodata platform that also Thomas described. And if we then look further into the future and into those information ecosystems that I started off telling you about, we will, of course, also need to gradually develop our own collection, storage, provision, and so on in collaboration with the Geodata Council. And this could, of course, mean many different things. We need to adapt our data models, our storage, our data provision, the formats we provide it in, and so on, so that it will be easier to be used in digital twins, AI, and so on. But it also requires very basic things like having persistent IDs, having all our objects in 3D, being able to handle both history and different future scenarios. So some future plans for Lantmäteriet concerning digital twins then is that we will continue to monitor activities that is linked to digital twins, both to find new initiatives and trends, but we also follow more closely some activities that we find interesting, both nationally and internationally. And of course, we will participate in selected activities concerning digital twins, and this project, DTCC2, is of course a very good example of this, and we are very happy to be part of it. And we will also be part of the continuation of another Swedish project, the second part of the National Hub for Digital Twins that is led by RISE. And all the requirements that we find in all this will, of course, then be documented and also taken into account in the further development within Lantmäteriet. And if we look further into the future, we might even run our own digital twin, but then a more process-oriented one. For example, maybe to be used in the property formation process. I would also like to just say a couple of words on a government assignment that we're working on actually right now. We have been asked to develop a national strategic plan for the geodata area for 2026 to 2030, together with other authorities and municipalities. And the purpose here is to propose measures that in any way, some way can improve how geodata is produced, made available and used. We should also look into how security and information security can be strengthened. We should describe how we could have more transparent pricing models, and we should also propose how financing and responsibility can be developed. And what we really need to do to achieve this is to actually take this geodata area from the maps that we have today to a more data-driven development. Oops. Did I lose my connection? No?
Seems your presentation is gone.
Yeah, I something happened. Maybe I should try to share it again. It just disappeared.
Yeah, maybe try to share again and then.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, it's back.
Okay, so yeah. So yeah, I was talking about what needs to be done then, that many things of today is just maps still. So we need to have it in a more data-driven way. And we need to move from 2D to 3D and also, of course, to 4D. And we need to see how we can use AI in a safe way for analysis and use. And all this need to be done very quickly because it need to be completed by August 30 this year. And then last but not least, what benefits do we then see as a partner in this DTCC2 project? Well, we will participate, first of all, in the data platform for AI-first digital twins. And here we see our expectation is, of course, to see how our current geodata can be used, what is working and what can be improved. And we also hope to learn a lot of things, for example, about existing digital twins and their needs, AI in relation to digital twins, and also to get a better understanding of data spaces. And we are also interested to see if our geodata also can be used in other projects within DTCC2. And as I said before, we are really looking forward to participate in this project together with you all. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, now it's time to talk a little bit about the projects that we're going to do in the next 5 years, or at least parts of it. So you're going to hear from all the project leads that have already a defined project. Not everything is in place. We're still in the recruitment process. We're still defining the tasks and roles. But the purpose here is to give you an idea of what's sort of the overall vision, the goal of these projects are. And we hopefully, you already expressed interest in a specific number of projects, as Anders mentioned, but it's not like set in stone. So whenever you see now some, okay, this sounds very much interesting, and I missed that before, it's of course always possible to sort of add a project to your portfolio and participate there as well, or change into a different project. So this is just now the beginning of defining the projects, and then step by step, the leads will call you in for meetings, for workshops, to define the roles even more. And as Anders said, it's both the responsibility of the leads to get you engaged, but also it's your responsibility to be engaged then. So we hope really that the initial selection here of project ideas suits your interest. It sounded like in the application process it does. I hope I hope that that's still the case. So we're gonna have 15 minutes roughly for each project. So I'm giving a sign at 10 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes for questions also. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be done by 12 o'clock, and then we'll do lunch. If we need 5 minutes more, it shouldn't be a big problem. Good, let's get started. And Małgorzata is up first. And I'll have the first slide already up here.
So I'm Małgorzata Bońska. I'm an architect and associate professor in architectural design and digital technologies at Chalmers Department of Architecture and Civil Engineering. So I will present the project Reclaimed, Redesigned, Retwinned, Digital Twins in Architectural Reuse. Why undertake this project? This project will have a strong focus on sustainability and digitalization. So in the previous milestone project, in the first part of DTCC, we noticed a knowledge gap. So there is actually quite limited digital support of architectural reuse in the early design stages. And reuse is important because right now we're facing the climate crisis, and we need to rethink how we're using construction materials, and we need to look into the materials that already exist within the built environment. And we need to try to accommodate these materials in new construction. So it's quite important with digital twins here, because the digital twins can provide us with important information regarding where these materials are located in the city, in what form do they exist, and so on. We don't have that many tools in the architectural design process right now. Everything is in motion and things are being developed. But the current tools, let's say, are focused more on the quantitative evaluations of different reuse scenarios for buildings. So the global warming potential, the environmental impact and cost. But also when it comes to design with reused components, it's important to look at also the qualitative aspect, because people need to accept these old materials in buildings, and that needs to be addressed from the design standpoint. So we have the city twins, we have building stock models, and these are not fully explored as sources of data to inform the architectural design process involving reuse. So there are tremendous amounts of data out there. So in this project, we will look into what type of data can be useful for an architect's process. If some data cannot be used, then in what format should this data occur so that it can become useful for the process we use to increase sustainability. And what levels of detailing do we need in the digital twins, from the level of the city to the level of the building and the single component, because there will be different levels of detailing involved. How do we create these digital twins? Do they need to be generic for which design phase? How detailed do they need to be when we come down to the stage of actually designing with these reused components? So the main research question for the project will be how can we leverage digital twins, but also computational design and robotic 3D printing and architectural reuse to enhance design qualities and minimize the environmental impact. So the objectives of this project will be to develop digital support, enabling high quality design with the reused components, while maximizing the reuse of existing materials that are harvested from different buildings in the city. efficient integration of these materials and components in the existing and new buildings, because we also have existing buildings that are in need of renovation, for example. And we should be thinking about reuse in that context as well, so not only new construction. And optimize reclaimed element fitting. So we have an available stock of materials. How do we fit these materials into either an existing building or a design of a new building in the most efficient way, so that we don't generate more waste in the process. So optimized reclaimed element fitting based on qualitative and quantitative criteria for design and environmental impact, because if we have several scenarios for fitting the components in the building, we want to know what these scenarios entail in terms of economy, in terms of the environmental impact, how much CO2 emissions do we have, and so on, but also the design quality aspect. And also, as a sub-goal already, what I mentioned, what digital twin data format or formats and what levels of details are needed from building stock models to meaningfully inform architectural design for reuse. So this PhD project will be focused on the development of computational design tools, probably, maybe not one tool that captures all, but several tools that are interoperable with each other. The first component would be to have a tool that allows for reclaimed element fitting in a waste-free manner, which means that we, for example, try to fit the existing materials without cutting or standardization. We try to reuse the whole material bulk. And also for generating 3D printed joinery, so that the elements can be connected in the case of waste-free reuse. Sometimes there will be gaps between the components because they come in different sizes, in different forms and shapes. So you want to complement the gaps with custom 3D printed elements. And then evaluation of these design options. So we want to note the environmental impact of the design options that we are creating, but also include some user-defined parameters, user meaning an architect using the tool, regarding aesthetic value, design option cost, and so on, which will enable dialogues with the clients. On top of that, trying out this tool as a part of a proof of concept workflow, where we try out and identify the limitations and opportunities when we go in a process from material identification in the city. And here probably collaborating with the Chalmers project CREATE, that has the building stock model with quite some data regarding the building components in the city. So using that data and identifying materials, then harvesting the materials and preparing the materials, what is needed for that, and then on designing with these materials in an architect's proposal, and then actually on-site assembly. And this is where the 3D printing would come in, so that we can actually mount these elements in a waste-free manner. And then along the way, when we investigate this proof of concept workflow, it will be important to define how the different actors can get involved. So for example, this is not yet established, but I'm discussing further partnership with Gothenburg municipality unit HIGAB that owns historic buildings in Gothenburg, and Stadsfastighetsförvaltning, which is the owner of many buildings in Gothenburg. So when could they come into the process, and what should they be providing in the dialogue with an architect if they have properties that need to be renovated or they want to build new properties. And then also indication of this external digital twin input, because we have this, as I mentioned, building stock models. So we need to know what type of data we need, but also perhaps when the building is in place, what type of data do we need to provide back to the digital twin to update it. And proof of concept demonstration of this process. So creating prototypes that involve reused components and 3D printed elements, just as a way of showcasing that this workflow is actually feasible and how it could look like. And through these prototypes, it's always easier to, for example, get the clients on board for an architect, or actually the architectural offices to get a better understanding of how the digital twins of the city could be used, because right now there isn't much use by architectural offices of these twins. And not all data is, of course, available fully. So the project partners, we have Liljeval, we have Vinio, Chalmers, and then the two partners from the city of Gothenburg that I mentioned that are still tentative, and we're discussing options. Perhaps they will provide a case study building that we can use as a test bed for the project. Yes, so that's all from me, and I'm happy to answer any questions either right now or over the email. So feel free to text me or ask a question now if we have time.
No, thanks, great presentation. Is there any specific partners that you're looking for right now? I mean, I'm one of the partners.
Yeah, I'm discussing, as I mentioned, with HIGAP and with Stadsfastighetsförvaltning, because they do own buildings and they are very interested in reusing building components when they renovate these buildings. And HIGAP has historic and culturally valuable buildings, and that creates certain requirements for reuse, whereas Stadsfastighetsförvaltning, they have all kinds of public buildings available. And they do have a pilot project called Förskola Hoppet, in which they have tried out this process already. So I'm thinking about these types of partners, but of course, I mean, the sky is the limit. Anyone with a relevant interest could be valuable. Do you have anyone specific in mind?
Here is volunteering home. Mattias Hage as well that I met, who's a specialist in robotics. No, but I think this is really both important and super interesting. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Glad to have you on board as a project partner.
Thank you, Margareta.
Thank you.
All right, let's see who's next. Yes, Alexander.
Yes, hello. Great to be here. I'll give you a short intro about mixed realities and how to use it in the Digital Twin City Center. My name is Alexander Holberg. I'm an associate professor in the research area Sustainable Built Environments. So I'm more coming from this side of how can we assess sustainability of the built environment, but it's very important to also show, visualize it, and then use this information to make better decisions. So that's why I got interested into this topic. How can we visualize information to hopefully make better decisions? So what are mixed realities? The different definitions out there, and maybe you've used virtual reality or heard about augmented reality, and all these terms often fly around. So one umbrella term of everything is called extended reality, so XR, which could summarize all these different applications of augmented reality, virtual reality, and then mixed reality. You can also draw it on this scale from the physical world to the digital world. Meaning if you use virtual reality and you're fully immersed in the digital world and you're there, but you can also think about using physical models and then augment those physical models with additional information. And that's what we try to do in this project and what we define as mixed reality. So can we combine the physical and the digital world? And one very simple but very successful example is this part of the exposition in the WIS lab in Universium. And it's a 3D model of the city of Gothenburg. It's 3D printed. And then there's a projector on the ceiling visualizing all kinds of information. And we didn't design the exposition. We just provided some, we thought, relevant information. For example, those sunlight hours, and you can see the large shadow of color 200 over the whole city, or you can visualize mobility flows, people going to work and going back and how they move around in the city, or all kinds of information. And according to Jonas, who is often giving tours in Universium, this is very important part and where many visitors take time to explore this data in this form. So we want to think about how can we further augment this model in this project, for example, by using augmented reality in the forms, example, of iPads. And we did a little pre-test also in the digital DTCC phase 1, which was how can we use a phone or an iPad? And the idea was to have your digital twin in the pocket. You can just point it at some flat surface and you visualize whatever you want. In this case, it was a part of a neighborhood around the Chalmers campus and visualize, for example, wind data or energy demand of the buildings or the noise from the street propagating through the buildings. And this was very nice, but static. So we thought of how can we take it one step further and make it more interactive, and tried out a little tool with students, giving them the task to optimize a single room to reduce the energy demand while keeping a certain daylight level. So the student had the task to change the window to wall ratio, oriented the building, and change some other parameters like glazing type to, in an intuitive way, optimize the building. And we actually present in the afternoon of what the students, how this actually improved the learning. But it was one novel way of interacting with building physics and simulation with architecture students, which is often perceived a bit boring in the beginning, but this is maybe more a playful approach. So now that we have some promising pre-results, we want to use this project with a PhD student to combine it and go deeper. So the overall broad research question is, how can mixed reality support design and decision-making processes towards sustainable cities? And while this is a very broad question, we will break it down in the PhD project and focus on different parts. And this is also where the partners come in. But before going there, we need some theoretical foundation, and we realized in this first part that actually we don't have a very good basis of how to visualize which type of data for which stakeholder in which scale with which technology. So we said, okay, the first year is laying this foundation. We're looking at the literature, best practice, examples and tools out there, but potentially also interviews with the partners at the end. And then we want to go into the tool and case study development phase. And the idea is to have two different scales, one on the neighborhood scale and one on the building scale. And the idea is to group the partners around those two cases. We discussed with Eric that one potential case for the neighborhood could be this model of the Elf-Rümet, which is over there. And we could use an iPad to project data. And we also discussed with the Chalmers campus development, which are currently developing a new vision, that this would be a nice test case. Because we want to use those cases then to also do user tests with designers, which could be architects, urban designers, but also engineers, but also citizens and yeah, the general public to get them supported. So we want to have the PhD doing a scientific contribution, of course, but we also want to see this as a range of best practice examples that could help other municipalities or actors in Sweden to come up with similar concepts. This Universium created a lot of interest, and we also got calls from Alingsås, for example, who wanted to do a similar model and exposition in their municipality. So hopefully this becomes also something to show and inspire others in Sweden and beyond. We have those partners on board. So we have Lindholm Science Park right today, FCC, the city of Gothenburg, Högskolan West, and Sofia University / GATE, also Sweco, Lilja, and Liljevalch. And of course, we're happy for more interest, or if you think you have some data that would be interesting to visualize in such a concept, we're very interested in talking and discussing the opportunities. Thank you very much. And of course, any questions will come.
Nothing online? Nope. Good. Crystal clear then.
I got a question. The model that you showed, just briefly, how did you make it? How long did it take? And also, is it being used right now? Like the actual tool, the application, the first one that you showed. This one itself.
So,
I mean, is it being used right now by anyone?
so this was used with Bologram, a plugin for Grasshopper, which is ready to use, and it's not only used by us, but also other universities. And we used this in a student course, and yes, 20 students used this, and we did this as a user test. Right now, the course is over, so nobody uses it right now, but it could be repeated, and the idea is to continue with this workflow. We discussed also, can we move this to Unreal, but this Hologram was an easy way to have a proof of concept to use this.
When will it be implemented in the next course?
Yes.
You saying that, or is it?
No, I mean, it depends on which PhD student I can hire, because I know I can't do it. So I need somebody, but as long as Sanjay is around to solve the technical question. No, the idea is to continue this, and this was a very simple example. So my wish would be to actually have this on a full building scale, and to also have this physical model where you put your new building in as an architecture student and visualize data. So yes, I cannot promise you 100% because I cannot develop it myself, but I'm very sure that we'll use it in the next course, starting in January.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely want to help out as much as possible. Please.
Right.
Contact info. You have a slide?
Sorry, but I can go to the first slide, which shows my name. So the email is alexander.holberg@Chalmers.
I mean, good question, actually, at this stage. We're gonna have all the projects on our website with all the contact information and all the project leads there. We still have a bit of backlog with regards to the data that we need to display, but everything will be on the website. And otherwise, if not there yet and you want immediate contact, you can always also contact me and anybody from the management team, really. More in the chat? No? Good. All right. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Good.
Next one. So our next project, which I'm leading, is AI 3D city generation. So all these projects that we have in the list, they have these quite long names that we got when we started this work in the fall. So we've asked all the project leads to create shorter and more catchy names. So this is a short title. AI 3D city generation. The long title is still machine learning for urban geometries from multimodal geospatial data. The research question is, how can we use machine learning to generate high quality, high resolution urban geometries from multimodal geospatial data? There are many partners here, and we expect to talk to all these municipalities, to work with your data, to ask you what are your needs in this area, and make sure that we target this project towards those needs. We also have a number of partners who have more of an observing role, and of course, everyone is invited to be as active as possible, as active as they want in this project. This is a PhD project, 60 months or 48 months, depending on how you count, at the Department of Mathematics. So this is new for this second round, but we actually now have a project at the Department of Mathematics, which is where I come. So what is then the challenge? Well, the challenge is that existing models, they are either lacking in topological correctness or high level of detail. So to combine from publicly available data, generate the best possible 3D models that not only look good, but they are also correct, meaning that there are no gaps or holes or overlaps in the data. There are many already libraries, techniques, and papers on this, but we want to compete in this area and produce even better results. So there is a need for a mathematically grounded AI approach that ensures these two things: topological correctness and high level of detail. And we want to do this founded in mathematics, but also applying it to real-world data in collaboration with our partners, integration into the open source software that we are building. Hopefully, we can also coordinate with the Lantmäteriet with their efforts, and hopefully provide something for them that they don't have today. So we'll be talking to them as well and asking what are their challenges in this regard. So a little bit of an illustration of this high-level illustration is that we will be working with multimodal data, meaning that we'll be taking into account all the data that we can use, not only point cloud, but also orthophotos, street view images, and all other kinds of data that we can find, combining this to generate representations of buildings, for example, 3D city meshes, ensuring that those meshes are guaranteed to be correct, so they can be used not only for visualization, but also for all kinds of simulations. Then we want to integrate this as a component in our open source digital twin cities platform that we are building, making sure that this is a tool that can be used by everyone in the center and everyone also outside of the center. And apply this to different kinds of simulations. We already have pedestrian wind comfort, we have urban heat modeling, noise pollution, a little bit of flood modeling as well, and making sure that we can provide an automated way to get to the models that are needed as input for these kinds of simulations. And combining them high level of detail with correctness in the data that we get. We've already, we've been working on this for the past years as part of the first part of the center, but we now want to raise the bar and actually make this into a PhD level project where we investigate new methods and better methods, competing with the best possible methods available right now. There are many challenges in this. So, there are two parts, but two legs here. One is grounding this in mathematics. This would be a project at the Department of Mathematics. So then we have mathematical questions like convergence and error bounds. How can we prove the correctness of these methods? Can we prove, what are the conditions for guaranteeing the correctness of the generated 3D models? Can we establish proofs and error bounds on the convergence of these models towards the actual 3D geometries as we refine the resolution of the data? How do we fuse different data sources to enable that we can make the best possible use combining different data sources when we generate the geometries? And how, there are many challenges also, of course, in the design of the machine learning algorithms for doing this, sparse DNNs, which is an obvious choice that would play a role here. I mean, we have these point clouds, which they don't fill the space, so they are sparse in some sense. So that's one challenge. And how do we design our networks that will be part of this, and how do we prove something about it? So those are the mathematical challenges that are involved. But there are also practical outcomes of this that will be very important. So the good thing is that we have a group of developers that have developed an open source platform. So the student that works on this can, to a large extent, focus on the algorithmic and mathematical challenges. And we already have good tools for integration of data, providing data to this project, integrating back the developed algorithms into the platform as a component that can be used for actual applications. We will be doing a lot of work, of course, on performance metrics. How well does these algorithms behave? How well do they compare to state of the art, and so on. We see some milestones down here. The first milestone is that we'll be talking to all our partners in the project, and maybe all the partners who have also not signed up for the project, to inquire about what are the data sources that we can use, which challenges do they see in their current work. We heard about Lantmäteriet taking strides now towards 3D modeling. So which methods are they using, and which limitations do they see in the methods that they are using or developing, and how can we help out? So the best possible scenario here, of course, is that we develop something that can be used by all our partners, which can be integrated into the workflow of Lantmäteriet to provide state-of-the-art 3D models for Sweden and beyond. This is a simple example of something that we have started to work with just a few recent weeks, creating case studies as a starting point for discussions with our partners. So what are your needs when it comes to digital twinning? So this is one of maybe 10 or 20 different use cases that we will be presenting to you in discussions that will be following this kickoff. We'll be asking, what are your needs? This is a simple use case or storyboard of something that you might be interested in. It might be that these 10 or 20 use cases that we invent or guess are not really relevant. And that's good. I mean, then we will find new use cases that are relevant to you. But I think it's important to have these use cases as a starting point for discussion. So we have use cases that we have created, used to create these storyboards, and we will be reaching out to you shortly to get your input on what are your actual needs. Might be something like this, might be something that is completely different, or this might inspire you to say, well, this is something we did 5 years ago, now we want this. So expect us to give you a call and ask for your input on what are your actual needs. So we want your input on what are your needs, and what is your data, and what do you expect from us. When we talk about the platform, we really want to deliver something that can be used by you. So you see this is AI generated. I mean, you can see this like spelling mistakes here. So it's not really good with text, but it's really good at generating things quickly from ideas that you might have to illustrate something nice and easy. Yes. So our aim here is to create 3D models of cities based on publicly available data, and we will be doing this by developing new methodology founded in mathematics. So thank you. Erik.
Yeah, this was very interesting, and we also include this problem in the city of Gothenburg as we create a parametric model of the city. But I wonder about can you define the level of detail that we reach in this?
I mean, yes, we haven't defined it, but it will be, you can say it will be the maximum possible level of detail depending on what data you have. So in some cases in Sweden, yes.
The most important here is to actually break lines. That's the outline of the roofs.
Yes.
Footprints and so
Mm.
on. But you can also achieve higher level detail within, like the facades and stuff.
Yes, if we have good enough data. So that's the aim, depending on what data you have, create the best possible level of detail. And that can differ between different cities, between different countries. I mean, we have very low or relatively low resolution of point clouds in Sweden compared to a few other countries, but it's improving. So we want to create something that can take whatever data we have and provide the best possible model of that. So high level of detail, LOD 2+ or 3 is what we aim for. I think we can do this if we combine point clouds and street view images and also photos.
You have to need LiDAR data, street level.
Yes.
The most high level.
I guess we do, yes. So, I mean, to be able to I mean, and it can be, I mean, we can't say that we aim for LOD 3 if we don't have the data, but we should be generic enough to generate that if the data provides it. And we should be able to design a methods that can figure that out.
Will you do any data collection?
I don't think we have resources for that. We will, I mean, we'll be relying on our partners on Lantmäteriet to provide the data to us. We need a lot of data to work with, but we don't have the resources for collection. But then, I mean, and then we have good collaborations with partners like Doing Good, who have been working with us to classify data. So that might be a way for us to actually work with the partners to partly generate data or classify data for training.
Also good to see. And I think, I mean, you can definitely crowdsource some of the information. We can go out and collect some data for you.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But satellite data, that's, how much are you incorporating that?
We haven't worked with that
At
yet.
all?
No.
Why not?
We have been using what is on the LM website. So that has been point clouds and also photos mainly.
But are you looking to incorporate the satellite in the next 5 years?
Any data we can get, yes.
Are you aware of that chart?
Yes, I heard about them. Yes, yes. But that's a company, right? It's
Yeah, it's, that's what the base Microsoft simulator.
Yeah.
I don't know, millions in funding.
Yeah.
But their phone was more or less the same as well, but they incorporate a lot of satellite data.
Mhm.
So of course they can get to this, but then everything from the facades is.
Yeah.
But that when it comes to cloud sourcing and or everything else from multimodal.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
I have one in the chat too.
Okay, good.
Emily Claire, she says, as an architect, I would like to know if the aim is to be able to export the digital twins to other programs for use in, for example, a BIM model.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So I mean that would be done through the platform. So I mean the platform should provide us with the possibility to export to any kind of format, any model, any standard, any model or format that is available. Yes. And that's something we would be asking too. I mean, if we provide you with a 3D model, what do you expect? And you will say, I want it in this format, and then that's something that we can provide. I think you're up next, Matthias.
Yeah.
Now we'll hear from Matthias, and he has he's special because he has 3 projects.
Yeah, and only 15 minutes. So buckle up. Yeah, my name is Matthias Ruppe, work at ACE. And all these 3 projects are based on like creating a digital twin for a construction site. So this is actually an old picture from 2020, I think, but we can have this as a base now in the first slide. What we realized back then was that we wanted to do, for creating this digital twin of the construction site, we need like a digital version of the building. So that was something called Total BIM, as we wanted to go model-based construction, that we use the model, not drawings on construction site. And if we look at the traditional design process, we spend about 40% of our time creating drawings. So instead of doing that, we can actually put more efforts into the information and also the model. So we get a better representation of what we are actually going to do. And if we look at this image, we have this total BIM concept, which is design, but also, as we say, put more efforts into the information, but also operation feeds connected to construction site. And then, most important, we need a user interface or applications we can use as a user on construction site. So this is a continuous project from the first phase, where Oliver, is a PhD student looking into this. In the first phase, it was how could you create this model-based constructions, but in this second phase is also the potential of data-driven decision-making during the construction phase. So as we get more and more information in, and we work with the model and the information, we have the possibility to do more data-driven. And in this case project we did, or currently looking at, they use it for reuse of material. So in this case, they created a digital twin related to the construction project where they tracked all the reused materials. So that was Byggstyrning, which is one of the partners. But also they used the model on construction site. So no drawings, using tablets instead, and then you actually start to measure. So this research was a lot about how could we create this type of process. But also we use these models on construction site with virtuality. So that is from Citygate in Gothenburg, where they use it for work preparation. And also we did some site planning, where we can actually do site planning on construction site. Oops, it's a little bit delayed. Connected to this, we also have, as we have the model and the information, we want to use it for construction planning. And that is Efren's project, PhD student in the industrial PhD students from Skanska, where they look at BIM-based virtual tech planning. How could we use the model and the information to plan on site? So in this case, we are subdividing the project into different parts. We want to gather all the information so we can track both for quantities, billing, and scheduling. But that, as we have seen, the research gap here at the moment is that there are no information structure which actually, as we see here, no common information structure describing the construction process. Often we used to describe something which are actually built in a sense. So in this case, we want to create an information structure which supports the construction site and the different phases on it. So a lot of it connected to the model, but also information in this case. So the idea is to increase productivity, quality on the construction project, but also the possibility to start comparing projects. As a construction company, you have a lot of different projects. And if you don't have a common information structure for the different projects, you cannot compare them and learn from each other. So that is the maybe in 5-10 years time ahead, we're looking for that. And when we have these type of information structure, we could probably use AI in the future to learn from old projects. And we have the new project. So this is a upstarting project. Oversight, we call it. So a control room for construction site. So we want to actually put more efforts into the application part, as you saw in the first slide, where we want to create like a control room for construction site, where we have like a back and front office, where the front office is construction site and back office is someone supporting the construction site. So idea here, we build it on the same framework as before, but in this case, we focus a lot about operation feeds and information, but of course also modeling, so to be a modeler in focus. So in this case, what is happening when you are actually going more model-based, you use your iPads on site and phones to actually do checklists, quality checklists, issue lists and stuff like that. So that you connect often to objects in the BIM model, and then you connect that to information, and then you get DCF files, which is smart screen dumps where you can have information connected to this checklist. So that is one operation feeds where the actual user are doing that. The other thing we recognize is if we can capture the construction site as it is at the moment, as we see it, if we look at the total BIM, it's the final product of the project, but we want the current state of the project. We will actually want to see how does it actually look when we are on construction site now. So we know what we are actually building. So in that case, we want this sensor data to actually compare the virtual construction site as it is with the design one, and then compare BIM versus site. And then we can create this back office, as we see here, where we can compare design versus site in a sense. So we want to create a digital version of the construction site, and that we can do with 3D Gaussian splatting using 3D6 cameras and also point clouds. And then, as I said, also we have all the BIM information here. So we have a smart virtual copy of what we actually are going to build. And in this case, when we combine in these, we can have a digital version of what we're actually constructing. As we get the information from the BCF files, and all the BCF files have locations, we can actually have information marks in the virtuality model, where you can actually select things, and then you get the different reports or issues. But also you can be in this virtual environment and find in this back office and find issues, or even help the production teams with measurements, and then push back this type of VCF file to the correct project. So the idea actually is to do this 4D BIM for construction site, where we have this copy of what is going on construction site, and you can visit it remotely and hopefully support the construction site. Any questions? So we have a workshop after lunch about this. Yeah.
Point clouds and these models tend to be quite heavy and difficult to navigate. So how are you Are you somehow bypassing that or solving the problem of having models? There's a lot of data in the point cloud, and it tends to be difficult to.
Yeah, we have done some tests on this 3D Gaussian splatting, but also I think we have done some with point clouds. So, and we could handle huge model, BIM models, so probably will not be any issue, hopefully. Yeah.
How are you working with the linking between the visual and what kind, is there a special database that you're using? So is it depending on the information? So you have the 3D models and then linking that to the actual database. So you don't tie it to either PDFs or IFC or is there any special database infrastructure that you're using?
We're basing this on IFC, but of course we have different databases for different purposes. But I think you would probably more see. We haven't solved it yet, as it's a research project, of course. But as you have all, as you said, BCF files, they have coordination, camera. You can have a like. I think I have one more slide actually. You have camera position on where it is taking the photo. So that is the placeholder, and you can actually connect it to a BIM object. So you actually know which BIM object you are actually selecting when you're taking the photo.
Well, what would be, maybe the question is, so let's say you build something and then you want to deliver both the building, obviously, because it's finished, and you want to deliver the information model, not in 5 different databases.
Yeah.
You want to deliver that into Vervaltning,
Yeah.
in one database, but you're not really there yet, it seems like.
No.
Okay.
No. But I see probably that IFC, BCF, and Open BIM standards is the way forward. Yeah.
I can set Anthony. Have you looked into the Norwegian software solution Immerso? That's compare a pod cloud with the BIM model.
Yeah, there are some type of that. You have open space and building dots also. So what we want to do is to integrate these models together to one. So that we can use the BIM and the geometry, but also the image-based. So you can actually, here you can probably use AI for visual detection, computer vision analysis. But here you can measure, you have all the information. So by combining these two worlds, you can have probably a smarter digital version of what we have today, in a sense. And also in this case, you will have a current state of how it actually looks, both visually, but also as a BIM model, as you have probably a 4D BIM of construction site. So in this case, we have virtuality to BIM in a sense, where we can create these things and add information in virtuality, and then you can push it to BIM, but also the other way around, where on construction site, create these PCFs using Stream BIM or something like that, and then push the information into the virtual world. But also what we think could be interesting in the future is also we can look at different times in a sense, where we can go back in time, what happened on construction 4 weeks ago. We can look at current, but probably also look forward with planning.
This is a comment. I think especially the last one, learning between projects, super important.
Yeah.
That's really not being done. And then some of the ones that are the biggest ones that are state of the art, they've come pretty far, I think, when it comes to project based. If you ask them, like, okay, can I compare this with the 5 different bodies that either we have done or we're doing right now? No one.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
Yeah,
So really interesting.
that's probably what Efrain's most important thing is, to have this information structure describing the construction process. So we can actually start compare projects, because it's at the moment we have had a couple of master theses which looked into this, but
You can compare apples.
yeah, exactly, because they don't have the same structure between the construction products. Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Matthias.
Yeah.
Then next up, we have Franziska from Fraunhofer Chalmers Center. Long way down there.
Yeah, so my name is Franziska Hunger from the Fraunhofer Chalmers Center, and we have been working with different kinds of simulations in the urban environment in the phase 1 of the Digital Twin City Center. So I also want to start off with a little bit of what we have learned from phase 1. So one of the projects that we were working with was the urban environmental comfort design. And there, for example, we work with the derivation of this benefit matrix, meaning how can we incorporate different kinds of simulations in different phases of the planning process. And we have been working with machine learning a little bit, with heat simulations. We have worked together with Alexander on the visualization, and with the other colleagues, of course, and also with combinations of different kinds of simulations in the sense of multimodal simulations, making use of a digital twin. And from there, of course, very many questions arose. So we have gained some insight, but questions are still open. And one aspect that we haven't covered in detail was the urban greenery. So this is one focus that we will have in this phase. And here, trees are the most important thing. So trees in the urban environment obviously provide very important ecosystem services, like, for example, the air quality, the modeling of the heat and the wind, biodiversity, carbon capture, health and well-being effects, but also cultural or historical aspects. However, trees have it's very difficult for the trees to really thrive in the urban environment, since it's a very unnatural environment for the trees. So climate change poses their challenges on the trees. Then they have limited resources underground, but also above ground. Diseases are a problem, and other challenging environmental conditions, like, for example, the salt that's thrown onto the trees during the winter time. So the question is, how can the simulations and we support the planning of the urban greenery? And of course, the target in the urban greenery is to provide optimal ecosystem services and avoid to have unfavorable side effects. Like, for example, air pollution is a complicated task when it comes to greenery, because for once the trees are screening, but they are also absorbing. So you don't want to have an accumulation of the emissions locally around the trees. Optimal thriving, of course, is very important, because the lifetime of a tree should, or let's say the ecosystem services that the trees provide, they are growing with age. So of course you want to hold the trees as long as possible. And in the planning process, data and knowledge, but also, or particularly the experience of the urban planners, is very important. So traditionally, one can say that the process was mainly between the tree maintenance and the landscape architecture, so that the influence of the urban architecture on the tree was or is a fact. But on the other hand side, tree species selection and providing the known ecosystem services is an aspect that the urban planners take into consideration. But now we want to go the way through the simulations. So from the trees, or also from the urban environment, we get input data, like for example, LiDAR scanning of the urban greenery. Tree inventories exist, which are also on a different level of detail about what kind of data is collected. And then we can collect environmental properties. And from the urban environment, we also have, you know, the building, the 3D models of the urban environment that comes or that feeds into the simulations. And on the other hand side, the simulations allow, for example, to have a wind risk analysis of established trees on a more detailed level, level of detail. And on the other hand side, simulations can support the planning process and derive different scenarios for integrating the trees. And then to close the loop, of course, the change in the landscape architecture has also an influence on the existing trees, so that this can also be evaluated, and especially the risk on the very important mature trees can be considered by means of simulation in the designed or in the designed new developments. And the research question is basically, how can simulations and data analysis support urban greenery planning and maintenance? And there are basically three very important main aspects, and that's for once the mapping of the stakeholders. So who is involved and has impact on urban greenery planning? What is the common planning and maintenance process? Which data sources are available? What's the knowledge base that is used? And what's the greatest challenge in each city? So this is, the question is also not just based in Sweden, but that's an international question because the different cities obviously have different challenges. So for us, while the wind is very high and there's a high risk of trees falling over due to wind, in, for example, Italy, it's very often drought and heat challenges. So here with the mapping of the stakeholders, we want to reach out to you to map the challenges, but also the data input and the way of thinking to really enable this exchange between research and practitioners. Then the second aspect is the data collection. Now we have partners that are very good in deriving low-cost sensing. And here the question is, how can low-cost sensing be used to improve our understanding both of how urban greenery is planned and influences the urban environment, but also how are the trees thriving actually. So also which key tree matrix can be collected to improve our understanding of the tree health, thriving, and to provide the ecosystem services. And the third part is the simulation. How can the simulations be used to improve the planning and maintenance process? And which additional data is necessary to actually enable the simulations or enable the simulations on a different level of detail? And then once again, how can these simulations be integrated in the planning process? And within the project, I think we have a very good balance between the partners from the private sector, the academia, and the public sector. And the next step for us will be to reach out to especially the municipalities to, so we have planned a first city panel, an international city panel in May, to get together and discuss this very early steps on data availability and planning processes. Yes, and the second aspect that we also want to consider based on what we have learned from the phase one, especially this multimodal simulation, where we have used different kinds of simulations together via the digital twin platform, we want to take that to a single building. Here, this project is not that advanced as the tree project is already, because there we have already started within this international group of researchers. Here we're rather in the process of really defining the particular research projects, research question that we want to focus on. But as we have heard already before, we have very different competences in, for example, the sensor data, outdoor, but also indoor comfort simulations. Then we have the extended reality, and we have competences in different kinds of building simulations. And bringing those, or here, obviously, there's always a shortcut between several of those parts. For our part, it's usually the direct comparison to sensor or real world data. But we want to go the way through the digital twin platform to really connect all those parts and derive or being able to answer different research questions, like, for example, how can we evaluate the performance of sensors during operation in relation to its purpose? So what we have understood from colleagues that are working with automated control is that sometimes you receive sensor data which is so noisy that it's hardly being able to use for control of the building. So that can be, that's an aspect that can be supported by means of simulation, for example. How can we quantify the uncertainty of simulation results for different models, depending on the quality of the input data and in relation to the purpose? So that's probably a question that's arising continuously, because it's always the question, what kind of input data is available, especially for all the buildings that are in need of renovation, where there's usually no BIM data available, and what's the purpose of the simulation. And then what I mentioned before is how can we reach optimized control, and would incorporating simulations effectively help in achieving this task? So, for example, if sensors are positioned in a way that we don't really get a good representation of the situation, for example, of the outdoor wind conditions, would it help to include some kind of simulations to get another understanding of the actual conditions outside and inside? Yeah, and then, of course, the overarching question is how can we integrate those different kinds of sensor data and simulations, and how can we make use of extended realities for better user experience. And here, as of now, the DTCC partners are more on the academic side, so therefore I'm very open for comments and questions. And as I said, we're still in the development of this project. Yeah, thank you.
Super interesting. I think from the especially the last one, digital light buildings, definitely want to participate.
Okay.
I've more or less done exactly this for the last 4 years. So I can give you the cheat sheet of what not to do.
Yeah.
For the most part. Do you have a live build? Do you have a building? Does anyone? Do you have a building already that you want to try this out?
We were considering the new GATE building, because they have equipped it with sensor, kind of a lot of sensors. And we were also considering the Chalmers lab, maybe. But it would, of course, be nice to have different kinds of buildings, so that we have one in renovation need and one which is newer, where we have all the information available, so that one can test out this, what is that, the level of detail, for example, of the input data.
Good. Thank you, Franziska. So last but not least, this should be the last one, I believe. Yeah, Doug.
Yes. Right, so I'm Dag Westberg. I'm a researcher and developer and data scientist at the Chalmers Industriteknik, the Department of Applied AI. And the project I'm focusing on is what we're calling the AI First Digital Twin platform. And the question here is, how can we design and develop a platform, or a digital twin platform, to unlock the potential of AI-driven research in digital twin, within the digital twin city area? And why AI first? Like, digital twins traditionally have had primarily focused on visualization, showing things, looking at things, how will things look like, and then more traditional simulation coming in second. By traditional simulation, talking about like many simulations which shown like CFDs, solar analysis, the traditional kind of physical mathematical simulations. However, we're seeing now that like AI and machine learning is coming more and more. We're seeing here lots of projects using AI, using machine learning to do either to try to replicate some of the more traditional simulations in a faster way, or to try to do simulations, modeling predictions that could not easily be done using traditional simulation. However, to achieve that, we need to take a fundamentally different approach to how we look the data and structure the data, because AI and machine learning have very, very different requirements for how data can be stored, or needs to be structured for the mathematics of AI to be done efficiently. So to do that, you need to look at more modern solutions, things like graph and vector databases and other ways to store and access your digital twin. And so in this project, we're going to be exploring how this data, how do we store the data from a digital twin city and all the surrounding data in a way, and how do we access this data in a way that makes these AI, all these AI possibilities, all this AI potential actually practical. So goals of the project. Primarily, we are looking to collaborate with projects using or wishing to use AI within the digital twin city space. And want to identify real-world problems and bottlenecks that they are facing. This is primarily going to be this is practical problem-solving project. So the project itself is not going to. So the project itself is not trying to solve a particular AI problem. It is trying to build a platform that will make it easier to solve other people's AI problems. So then exactly. So yeah. So we're developing practical solutions. And within this, of course, we don't want to start from zero, but we're want to explore how to integrate with all the existing work that's being done, the data spaces that Desi talked about, and all the other fields connected. As I mentioned, there's a lot of work already been done using graph databases, storing digital twins, and how do you leverage that efficiently for AI. However, technical feasibility is only a small part of the problem when it comes to doing AI on digital twins, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with lots of data, and all this data has a lot of different requirements from a safety, security, integrity point of view. So to build a platform that you can use for AI, you also have to be able to take these things into consideration. How do you combine data with two different legal requirements? How do you train on a model where you combine data, where you combine open data with data that has like security implications? How can companies bring their like private trade secret data into a digital twin and train an AI model on that without, while feeling very secure that their private data or their like business data will not leak to other users of the digital twin or even the trained AI model? So here, so trust, privacy, data security, integrity, especially like digital twins, cities. People live in cities, and there are a lot of rules about how to handle data with people. So this is something that has to be dealt with. We're looking at, for example, synthetic populations as a way to simulate using people. So we don't have to use real people data, or even if we're using real people data, how do you train a model on data without that, again, leaking? Another important part is explainability. within AI, because especially if this model is going to be used for policy, then you have to explain, like a politician who's going to somebody's going to make actual law or policy changes. It's important they can explain the basis on which they are making these decisions. So therefore, you can't just say, well, the black box told me to do this, so we're doing this. You need to be able to work backwards and have it explain why you came to this. And this is like one advantage of like more traditional simulations compared to AI models, is that like with the traditional traffic simulation, for example, you can work backwards, like from first principle, explain how this model came to this conclusion. Most current AI models do not have this built in, and it's very difficult to do. So therefore, if you're going to be using AI models in digital twin city policy planning, you need to have this explainability aspect. And finally, we are looking at what can we learn from other fields, like healthcare. Healthcare face many of the similar problems. In fact, more so. Healthcare data is extremely sensitive, but also extremely valuable from a research point of view. So how does healthcare solve like these problems, and what can we learn from them? And also, how do we combine, for example, healthcare data with the digital twin data? Because there is a lot of aspects of how health is affected, kind of urban planning can affect health. So, and if we can combine health outcome with urban planning outcomes in an AI model, I'm sure there is a lot of potential insight to be gained there. But again, how do we do this in a way that doesn't affect the like privacy, integrity? So how do we build an AI platform that will allow us to do all these things that we want to do with AI and that we know that AI can potentially do? So we know a lot of things that AI has the potential to do, but we also need to know, but how do we do that in practice? And that is the core here. We want to develop tools and platforms that are practical and help solve real world problems applying AI to digital twin cities. And to do this, we need to find practical and real world problems that people are having when it comes to AI. So that is part of the workshop we're going to be having, as we want to talk to people who are either doing AI connected to digital twin cities or want to do AI connected to digital twin cities, but don't really know where to start. Or even people that have successfully or unsuccessfully used AI connected to digital twin cities to learn what their problems are and what they need from data access, data storage, data federation to actually help them use AI to really solve real problems. Thank you. Questions? Yes.
It sounds to me that one of the questions we are to solve is helping the built environment translate how the AI Act is to be used. Mm-hmm. Is that something you are considering contributing to?
How the
built environment could react or understand the AI Act, mm-hmm. And to efficiently use these tools without really running into more problems that we need to.
Yes, I mean, so it's like how do you? We want to. I mean, there is a lot of AI projects kind of connected to this, but many of them have done a few as well. It's like it's all very done on an ad hoc basis when you're trying to connect the data. So how do you? So the basic idea is to like what is needed from a platform that will make this easy, but also within like regulations.
To be able to use it, to use this in practice, we have to comply to the AI Act.
Yes.
And if you can contribute to helping us to do that, I think that would be super wonderful.
Yes. Yes, that I think that is also part of the kind of the practical part of it. It is that it has to be compliant with AI Act and similar regulations. And if a platform that can like that, I wouldn't say automates that, but that can like give you at least a checklist or somehow or like flag potential problems is definitely something we're looking at because as mentioned, it's like the technical feasibility is like it's only a small part of it, and many projects die not because they're like technically difficult, but because like dealing with or like managing the data regulation and the data safety and the integrity and all that becomes too hard, too onerous to make the project viable. So that's a big part of it. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
We talked about the explainability and that.
Yeah.
And then also where the impact is very important, maybe connected to the general ability of an AI as well. So that's also why we went from black box models to physics.
Yeah.
So we already have it here. How to set up the explainability and generalizability and how to set limits on where it can be applicable and where not?
I've started looking at it a little bit in connection to another project. We don't really have. It depends, of course, a little bit on exactly which AI types of models. I started looking a little bit connected to like energy modeling. But as you also said, the limits of an AI model is also important. There's no problem with like, for example, the model can really only work. An AI model can only really work within the confines in which it has been trained, and you need ways to flag when you're trying to use the AI model outside of those confines. So that is like it's not something that I've like started to like seriously like look into, but it is something that needs to be that we've started looking at a little bit in context of other projects, and that we realize are important to having a platform like this. Yeah.
Well, you said this workshop. I'm guessing it's not today, but when is the proposed workshop?
We haven't. It hasn't been booked yet, but it is. We're going to send out an invite to partners.
Just more of a comment. Exactly again. So I started working with healthcare 2-3 years ago. For this specific reason.
Yeah.
That they have to, ensure everything when it comes to security. So I think you're definitely. I can share everything that I know with this, but I think it's exactly what Francisco also said with the visualization provides the explainability part. Then, but if you have graph databases, vector databases, that's the mathematical, interpretation of reality. And if you connect those two, also what Matthias is working on with the BIM aspects, you combine that and you get obviously a digital twin of reality. So I'd love to help that. I've also been part of the MIMS. So I think like that's what Christine, in the AI Act. That it's not only the technical interoperability, it's the semantics, syntactic, organizational, legal, as well as actually the user interoperability as well, and the contextual interoperability. And I don't think they were mentioned in the beginning. I don't know which one, posed that from the MIMS. I think it was Desi.
It was Desi.
Yeah. Because that's why I'm sort of leading off with the MIMS, because they're exactly what you said. They're so focused on the technical side, but that's usually not the problem in the real world. And it's not even legal. Well, it is, but it's mostly people and organization stuff. So if you can explain it and couple that, making this a really practical platform, I think that's really great stuff.
Good. Yeah. Thank you, Doug. So we've come to an end of the kickoff, at least. Just a few words about now the concrete next steps. So already in 2 weeks, the technical board sit for the first time. There we will talk about some other activities beyond what we will do in the projects, of course. We want to continue to have events. We had this large event in 2023. We had the BIM days. Similar things we want to do, of course, now in the second phase as well. Focus on internationalization. Can we facilitate, organize your Horizon Europe projects, larger projects, associated projects? Those are some of the questions that we will bring up there. We will start now also concretizing the PhD forum that Leonardo will coordinate. So this is one of the things. As soon as we have recruited all PhDs, we will have that forum up and running and use it also as a way to disseminate knowledge to you, but also give some guidance to our PhDs, of course. And then the board of directors we will inaugurate also in a few weeks. And Nadia will help us with a communication plan, how we will communicate internally, but also externally. And yeah, otherwise, just we're very open to any suggestions that come from the partners, and we'll hope to have another successful 5 years then. Good. That means we will close today. I'm gonna say goodbye to the people online already, and the people here still. I'd like to ask for one more photo because the photo didn't work. So please come before we go to lunch. Please, just another quick photo. Thanks, everybody.
Let's put something in the background.